What's going on? Cole Connor here. Today I want to talk about how I've just done my two favorite interior design photo shoots, editorial style, architectural. Let me tell you how I did it with no flash. These photos could be in magazines, architectural digest shit.
King Cole.
My name is Cole Connor and I was put here to do three things: create, inspire, love. Thanks for being here. Let's get into it. Big shout out to Matthew Anderson. I checked out a couple of his videos before doing this shoot and it made a huge difference. Shout out to Matthew. I'm going to put a link to his channel. You can subscribe in the description. Highly recommend. It seems like when most people are doing these interior design, editorial, architectural shoots, they're using flash. I've been doing them without flash and I'm very happy with the results. You would probably think they were shot with flash, but they weren't. So really quickly, general settings for the camera. For these two shoots particularly, I usually don't think about the ISO too much because having a high ISO on these cameras like the Sony a7S III, it just doesn't make a huge difference. But what I'm starting to do is, even though I think ISO 800 to 1200 can work, I'm trying to shoot for around 100. I don't think you can tell a huge difference, but the more I'm looking at the photos, especially when I'm editing, there is a small difference. So I do recommend shooting the lower ISO if you can. I keep the aperture at around f9, f10, unless I'm doing handheld. Sometimes I will have the aperture at a f2.8, f4.0, and that just gives it, the blurry foreground look for some shots. Not all of them, but some of them. Okay, here's the main thing I learned from this shoot that I think took it from just like a regular old real estate kind of interior type shoot to this is an editorial shoot. This is good shit. Straight on versus the angle shots. My process for pricing interior design shoots is I base it off spaces, number of final images, and length of time on site. So with that being said, I go in, I take more photos than needed usually, and what I noticed this time was that the interior designers are almost always choosing the straight on shots. I kind of knew that already a little bit, but this really cleared it up for me. Straight on shots just look better. They look more professional. There's like a vertical, horizontal thing going on there. The angled shots, they look almost amateur. They look more real estate style. So that would be my first tip, is just go for the straight on shots. I'll throw up a couple examples of ones that just didn't quite work straight on, just to show you that sometimes the angled works, but most of the time, as you can see, it's straight on. The second thing that really helped me for an interior design shoot was slowing down and bringing an iPad. At first I was like, I'm not charging enough to bring an iPad and have them look and nitpick every shot. But when I actually brought it to a shoot, it made such a big difference. First off, we're taking images for the most part that we know that they'll like. So even though I shoot extra, I don't have to shoot as much. And it really just narrows down my editing time. It narrows down how many shots they have to choose from. And they're just overall happier with the shots. The first time I worked with this particular interior designer, I just kind of did a bunch of shots, what I would typically do. And she was happy, but she wasn't as happy as this shoot. So there's a big difference with the amount of exclamation marks on, oh my God, I love these photos. And even before leaving the shoot, she just knows and feels more confident because she was able to look at the iPad, move these little things around, do the little tweaks. Honestly, it felt even better for me too, because I didn't have to worry just about me making sure I get all these angles and all these specific shots and hoping that they're what she's looking for. She's kind of directing me, and then I'm like, well, maybe we should do this. It's a teamwork thing because she knows what she shot. She's already seen this room for months, sometimes longer, as she's preparing for an interior design project. So it just makes sense. She's seen the room longer than me. I'm not going to come study the space for days and weeks beforehand. That just doesn't make sense for me. So she's already got a good idea. So why wouldn't we use that to our advantage? Bring an iPad and let's get the shot we want. It makes me look good too for my portfolio, so it's a win-win in both scenarios. One of the big things that I took from the Matthew Anderson video was focusing on the natural light. So if there's one window, like I think maybe we should go into the photos here. So here's an example. We're on the computer now, and here's an example. Pretty much the only light is behind the camera. There's this window here, And then we have this kitchen window over here. So I have all the lights off in this picture, but it still looks fantastic. There's no color casting. And because the light's coming from this window, you see that it creates a natural shadow over here. And the typical HDR look is you kind of, all those shadows are disappearing. But when you keep them, it really creates just this beautiful image. And I feel like this is also a great example of that, where it almost bugs me a little bit because I've been doing real estate so much that it's like bugs me that this is a little dark, but they absolutely loved this image. And most of the light's coming from this doorway here and then a little bit back here, but it just looks so natural that way. I absolutely love it. Obviously, there's not a bunch of natural light in something like a bathroom, so instead of cutting all the lights off for this one, we did cut on the sconces, and it still turned out beautiful. I absolutely love that one. This is a great example of natural light as well. It's coming through this window, and it's creating these natural shadows. I'm not using any flash at all, and this is what's coming out of the image. So even if you come over here, you see it's darker by the stools, it's darker over here, because that's the natural shadow of the light coming through the windows. It just looks so good. Same with this shot. It's a little darker here. These natural windows is creating that shadow. Just looks so good. So for interiors, I am lights off gang. That's the bottom line. Lights off gang. Now we did do some with the sconces on, like for example this one, but I just liked it better with them off almost always. I could see how this creates, like I said, for the bathroom, it creates like a specific vibe, which is okay. But in general, these last two shoots, I'm telling you, it's just the lights off gang was the way to go. I mean, look at this vertical image. It just looks so good. So composition wise, we can kind of go through some of these shoots here. Like I said, you're sticking with the straight on. You have to make sure your vertical's right. You have to make sure your horizontals are right. You want to be as close to perfect as possible with verticals and horizontals. Before you leave the shoot, really, like in the camera, you want it to be good. Because when you get back home, you might think, oh, I could tweak it a little bit, but you might not be able to. This is tripod over the kitchen counter. You can see this one, I think I tweaked it a little bit. It's still not perfect vertically or horizontally, so that's kind of frustrating. But I did have some of these flowers right here in the foreground, which I really liked. This is a straight HDR shot with no flash, but just editing it like a more editorial image, which I'll get into the editing on a separate video, and I think I'm gonna even have some presets drop with it. If you haven't checked out my presets already, go in the description. I've got presets for drone, twilight, exterior, and interior real estate images. Those have been really popular, so check them out. See how all these are just like, they're straight on shots, they're different focal lengths, some different edits that were going on here. I wanted to highlight the archway. And then this other one, I'm just kind of going through just to show you some of the different angles, etc. Another example of a angled shot that really does capture everything very well. I didn't love this angle, but they wanted it. Like with shots like this, I think it's important to try out doing verticals and try out doing horizontals of different angles. Like they wanted this one. I didn't really love that, but I love this one. I love how it captures more of the floor. It doesn't really need to capture the ceiling, but I think it still looks fantastic that way. And same here, capturing more of the wood floor with the stools. The vertical just looks really good. And what's crazy is with most vertical shots, I was just doing, especially on this shoot over here, like this is just a single exposure, no HDR shot, and it looks fantastic. I did still do HDR with some of these verticals. I'm used to just running around with the camera after pretty much my interior shoots used to be I shoot mostly real estate style, then I go back through and do more detail shots, which is really kind of doing it Airbnb style. But I think this is what I'm going to start doing. I mean, like this vertical shot is just, it's fantastic. I love the way it looks. And with the editing, just briefly, I wanted to keep it natural. I wanted it to not look HDR. I wanted it to look like someone has a flash. That I wanted it to look editorial, supernatural. I'll go into the details of that on another video. Those are my tips for interior design, editorial, architectural photography with no flash. I'm learning. I hope it helps. My name's Cole. I'll catch you. Hi there. Thanks for watching. If you really liked it, maybe you'll like some of these too. While you decide, here's some music. Enjoy.